celebrating young people, but also creating opportunities for young people and equality and equity across the county.
Get Radio Breakfast with Rich Smith.
Well, here at Get Radio, all of this week we've been finding out a little bit more about National Youth Work Week, an absolutely fascinating week with Oxfordshire youth being front and centre of all this. Joined this morning by Tracey Blackstock, Head of Youth Development at Oxfordshire Youth, and also from Blenheim Palace, one of their partners, Aimee, Akinola. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Tracey, to come to you first and foremost, we've been hearing this week about the importance of this week. Just set aside, how important it is to focus on the youth of Oxfordshire on this week and every other week.
Well, firstly, National Youth Work Week happens every year. It's led by the National Youth Agency, which is a national organisation. They get some funding from central government. But the whole idea of National Youth Work Week is to ensure that we remain focused on youth work and the importance of youth work, not just the approach, but also the profession. So over the last, let's say, 15 years, youth work has kind of dwindled in terms of resources, funding, but we've remained steadfast in our sort of approach, in the importance of having youth work within our communities, youth workers within our communities, youth clubs and youth organisations for young people. It's very important, and so National Youth Work Week represents that. It's a way of kind of celebrating, but also homing into, the importance of it.
And obviously, being head of youth development, Tracey, as well, what are you trying to develop in the youngsters that kind of come through the program and the people in achieve? What kind of values and what kind of things are you kind of trying to instill on the young people that come through to sort of set them off in better directions potentially than they have been going?
Yeah, so Oxfordshire Youth, we have a 5-year strategy, and a part of our strategic goals and aims is one, celebrating young people, but also creating opportunities for young people and equality and equity across the county. Now, we know we live in a really affluent county, right? We have universities, we've got history here, and there's a huge legacy. But it's also, there are some wards within Oxfordshire that are one of the most deprived wards in the country. Now that's quite significant, right? So for us, it's very much about ensuring that young people have the opportunities afforded to them. They are our future. It's about building that legacy for them. And part of National Youth Work Week and reason why we're celebrating National Youth Work Week is also to amplify that as well, in terms of people being aware and raising awareness about the fact that we live in a very affluent county, but there are lots of young people who don't have the opportunities afforded to them as some others.
Yeah, and as the week's kind of gone on, and building a picture of all of this, it is always surprising because, as soon as you have Oxfordshire put in front of you, you have the beautiful town, you have the beautiful universities, you have the affluence that is clear to see from everyone. But it is so important to lift the lid on that and actually go, hey, hang on. I know you think everything is okay and rosy, but just stop a second. Help is needed, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a really good point, Rich. I think we forget that just because we live in I was born and raised in Oxford, and I'm quite fortunate to, have access to lots of different amenities. But there's also a price to pay for that. And that, so although you might have access to it, that it's available, but there's also the opportunities and the financial element that's linked to that. So I think it's really important that we don't get it twisted just because this is Oxford and the legacy behind it doesn't those two don't necessarily come together.
No. You mentioned opportunities there, and one such opportunity is at Blenheim Palace. And Aimee, thank you so much for joining us as well this morning. Just explain the relationship between the palace, which is one of the icons of Oxfordshire. You put it in that same list as the universities and what have you. Just explain the relationship with Oxfordshire.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, firstly. So the partnership that we've had with Oxfordshire Youth has gone on for at least 75 years as a whole. Myself, I've been working with Oxfordshire Youth as part of this specific partnership on the last 2 years. And really what it's about is kind of working with Oxfordshire Youth, who are, as Tracey have said, are the leaders, are the forefront looking at youth development within the county and bringing them along to experience Blenheim. And as we've just been talking about, kind of that affluence and opportunity is something that is highlighted so much in Blenheim, just even the scale of it, its architecture, you see it and you think wealth. So to have young people from areas who might be more deprived or haven't really had to interact with such things before, and have them feel welcomed. And this is a place for you. You can come visit. This is somewhere that you can experience. There is opportunities here for you, I think is really what is key about our partnership.
No, absolutely. And that is, it is vitally important because a lot of these times, doors are often closed. In front of young people, and more often than not, there are things going, no, actually that's not, and you can't go here, you can't do that, that's not how. So literally opening your doors is an amazing thing. So just explain to listeners what exactly that looks like. For example, if you had a group of students or one or two that you take on, what does it look like? Is it spending the day? Is it gaining work experience? Is it just a kind of integrating with some of the staff and what have you there? Just explain that, what it looks like.
Oh, absolutely. So like you said, it is about opening the doors, and museums and tourist attractions, especially stately homes, they're known for the do not touches, and they have the barriers and you can't go beyond here. It's very much you're hustled into a room, you stand around, you look around into the next room. There's no sort of touch this, feel this, have a look at this. So one thing that we did, especially in the last project that we've just completed, is we had all the young people lie in the middle of the floor in the saloon, which is one of the prominent rooms right in the middle of the palace, and they were looking up at the ceiling painting, and we literally had other visitors and guests have to kind of maneuver around them. But it was about taking up space. It was making sure that they were the priority within that room, that they could touch the walls or they could, look up. And we even had like binoculars, I think some people using their camera lenses to like zoom in to see. It really is about kind of getting up close and personal. And within that as well, we had other members of the Blenheim team come talk to the kids. So I overheard conversations of one young girl asking one of my colleagues about what she does, because she gave us a bit of a tour of the palace, so they can kind of find out about the jobs that people do there. I like to spend a lot of time through the week as well, just talking to kids. So I get to talk about what I do here, my background, how I got to Blenheim. It tends to be within like a school holiday that we found that works best, usually 4 to 5 days. So they come in the morning. First day, usually it's all a bit nerves and apprehensive. As with school children, often, if they're coming by themselves, a lot of them can be quite nervous. Some come with their friends. So we have a bit of time to kind of ice break and talk to each other, and also get to know the Oxfordshire Youth staff as well as the Blenheim staff. And we usually have some sort of theme that it follows. So the year just gone, we did peace as a theme. Again, it was based on the saloon painting, which is the first Duke of Marlborough being restrained by the hand of peace. And so we had 2 artists come along who had been given a brief brief beforehand and were leading different art like workshops on the theme of peace. So there was typography, they got to like kind of create their own fonts, there was spray painting, collaging. So yeah, they really just get stuck into these art projects. And I found that as the weeks go on, they just get more and more comfortable. And it's just really amazing to see kind of those interactions with the staff, with each other, with the building itself and the palace grounds as well.
That's amazing. You paint a perfect picture. Use the pun, painting and what have you, Salim. But anyway, you paint a wonderful picture of what happens. And Tracey, I guess that you actually see the sort of the back end of that. You know, the fantastic work that Aimee and Blenheim Palace does. You know, all the kids are hyped up. They've had an amazing time. They've seen and done things that maybe not necessarily they wouldn't have done. And then when they sort of come back from that, I'm sure they're gassed up to kind of talk and discover and you know, as we know with kids, they're just, you know, a sponge of knowledge and what have you to take on board. But they need that opportunity to be able to do that, to go, oh, actually, do you know what? We had an amazing time. I think I'd like to maybe work there or something. Or actually, I want to go down a history route. I want to, you know, maybe study that at school, or maybe I want to open a book and learn a bit more about Oxfordshire. That must be very rewarding.
It is actually. I mean, so the first year that we did the art project, I was fortunate enough to be on the ground, and as a senior leader, you don't often get to do that. So that's kind of my background. So I was kind of itching to be in the centre of everything with Aimee and, you know, the rest of the Blenheim staff and Oxfordshire Youth. And so, but one of the things that we are very keen on ensuring at Oxfordshire Youth that there's a bit of a pathway. So we've got these projects, fantastic, and it's great and it's fun, and young people bring young people together across the county. But what next? And what after that? And so one of the things that Blenheim are really keen on is they have apprenticeships. So then that big, massive estate. I mean, I can't even recall the amount of acres that Blenheim has, but I know it's in the thousands, right?
2,000,
So hundreds of thousands.
Well done, Aimee. Well done.
And so it takes a lot of manpower to kind of keep that estate running, right? So they've got something like 40 different apprenticeships at Blenheim, and so they've got a pledge by, I believe it's 2027, to employ more than 40 apprentices, right? And that's across, you know, from 16 upwards. And so part of that is that this partnership, and, you know, this ongoing partnership, is to support Blenheim in diversifying their apprenticeship scheme, and that's specifically for young people. And what I mean by that is diverse in terms of ethnicity, in that inclusion, gender, you know, neurodiversity, just in really including the sort of makeup of the program itself and the cohort and the group of young people that engage. So we've employed 4 young research assistants for this diversifying apprenticeship project to do a deep dive into their scheme, and that's from their marketing and communications to the selection of the apprentice, also interviewing, and hopefully I'll come along and interview Aimee, because Aimee's an apprentice as well, and she's fantastic. And so we want more individuals like Aimee to be part of the Blenheim crew, you know, young, excited, energetic, got lots of ideas, and who are innovators to be the future of Blenheim.
No, and absolutely, for sure. And when put on the spot as well, answering difficult questions like how big the estate is in acres.
Yeah.
So, you know, all round fantastic news. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning. You've given a real insight into the wonderful partnership that is taking place here. As we kind of heard as well, just at the start, a very, very long partnership, and long may it continue, because with these partnerships, the youth of Oxfordshire, of course, will be put into amazing pathways and just succeed in life, which is ultimately, you know, what everyone wants. So Tracey, thank you so much for joining us, and Aimee as well. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having us.
That's Tracey Blackstock there, the head of youth development at Oxfordshire Youth, and also Aimee Akinola from Blenheim Palace as well. A really, really fascinating and interesting conversation there.